All right, so this is going to be my first installment of kind of personal reflections and readings from the lives of the saints for Patreon only. Today we're going to look at this book, Living Without Hypocrisy, and we're going to look at some quotes from some of the saints regarding relations with neighbors, and see if anything comes up worthwhile in terms of speaking about. So Saint Nikon. With all the people you meet on the path of life, behave as you would like them to behave with you. Simple, golden rule. I think it's right as rain, though. Again, from St. Nikon. One cannot live without patience and complacence towards one's neighbor. From St. Ambrose. If someone is upset with you, i.e. not at peace with you, but does not express it, be pleasant with him, as if you didn't notice it. Saint Nikon, discord destroys people. Discord destroys people. That might be why I can't stand Discord servers, and I just can't function on them for some reason. I don't know if it's busy or something. It gets my ADD going. From Saint Nikon again, we should not give free reins to our feelings. We should behave affably towards those with whom we are not pleased. I think we could double click on this one a little bit, right? So we should not give free rein to our feelings. I agree. I think most people would agree. The question is, how do we gather the reins of our feelings? How do we control our feelings? A lot of times when things like anger or jealousy, whatever it may be, it's something that occurs, something that comes up in terms of a passion. A passion is that which you are passive against. So feelings a lot of times we are not in control. And the question is, how do you become control of your feelings? And can you be overly too controlled on your feelings, right? He says, we should behave affably towards those with whom we are not pleased. You can be, if you're not pleased with someone or you're fighting with someone, it's very easy to kind of sweep it under the rug, but then, act pleasant with them. But I think it needs to be done with humility and with a sense of love. Because if it's not done with humility and a sense of love, it's fake. It's felt as that, and it just it doesn't rectify the situation. I think what's important when we're talking about this idea or these words from the saint, they are ultimately talking about the rectification of human relations and the relationship between man and God, obviously. But those things are inextricably linked. Is man's relationship to God and man's relationship to the other, to his neighbor. So that's why I thought this would be an important topic to kind of check out here. From St. Ambrose, you should be respectful of everyone. Be friendly, but not too friendly. Make a bow and quickly pass by. St. Nikon, if some sort of misunderstanding occurs among us, or it seems that they are doing something bad intentionally, then we must immediately explain ourselves. Then every misunderstanding will vanish. I have a saying, so I'm a director, so I lead a group of people, and this quote reminded me of this saying that occurred to me is if when the elephant shows up in the room, shoot it immediately. If you're having a group conversation in a work environment or a family environment, a lot of times there will be this unspoken but present force, and a lot of times it's made of a misunderstanding or some kind of miscommunication. It's like the elephant in the room. And if you don't address the elephant in the room with discernment, it grows and it grows and it grows. And the actual elephant becomes more of an insult than the actual problem in the first place. So it's important when you see the elephant in the room to shoot it as soon as possible. Again, from St. Ambrose, be silent before everyone and they will all love you. Be silent before everyone and they will all love you. What came up for me here is this idea, does this mean just don't talk to people, right? I think the idea here is to be silent is to quiet the chatter of the mind, to be present and engaged and interested and open with the person that you're conversing with. Which is easier said than done, right? It goes back to this idea of reining in your feelings or gathering your attention, right? But I think these are important tools and ways of being that we can cultivate, and we have tools to understand how to do so as well. So be silent before everyone, and they will all love you. I think that means be present, and don't just not speak verbally, but don't wait for your next turn to talk and have kind of your canned response there. Because again, to deal with people, you have to deal with real people, not your projection of who the person may be or your insecurity about yourself in regards to the person that you're conversing with. So St. Ambrose again, regard everyone with simplicity. Regard everyone with simplicity. Another one, our salvation and our ruin is in our neighbor. Our salvation depends on how we relate to our neighbor. Do not forget to see the image of God in your neighbor. Again, easier said than done, but I think if we can get to the point where this is important to ourselves in our lives, is to attempt to see God in our neighbor, then I mean, we can fake it until we make it, right? Pray for humility, pray for forgiveness, and the relationships will rectify, and these saintly ways of being in the world will come easier, I'd say. St. Ambrose, he who yields receives 3.5 measures, and he who decides to admonish and correct receives only 1 measure. And sometimes he does not receive even that when he gets upset and upsets the other person. St. Nikon again, you should not oppose and struggle against people who cause evil. How about that one? Not only by word and deed, but even in your thoughts. Otherwise, the demons will be victorious. You will pray for such people. Then the Lord will help, and the demons will withdraw. A monk must prepare for death. Therefore, you must think about meeting death at peace with everyone. Again, it goes to this theme of I would love to love my enemies, right? I would love to not oppose or struggle against the causes of evil or people that cause evil, whether it's the libs or the bigoted conservatives, or it's the neighbor down the street that's a mother or father, or immigrants or LGBTQ people, like whatever it may be. Imagine being able to get to a place where you can love. I think getting to the place where you love your neighbor, you love the other, like it retroactively rectifies the problem in the first place of scapegoating. I think it's a structural problem there, or issue. St. Leo, the first and most essential means of making peace with those who offend and persecute is to pray for them according to the commandment of Christ. One should not be angry at others to the point of remembrance of wrongs. How about that one for our time, right? In accord with the commandment of the Lord, force yourself to pray for all of those who hate and offend you. Again, practically, how do you do that? You have a prayer rule. If you have a prayer rule, then you pray for your enemies. You pray for those that cause you harm, right? But I don't know if you can do it because you're actually trying to love that person or forgive them, rather than doing it because you read it from a saint or a quote. I don't know if there's an important distinction, but I don't know if you should fake it till you make it, like I said earlier, or if you should only do it if you're sincere. But again, the ability to become sincere, something like that, I think has to be cultivated as one is purified through, prayer, fasting, almsgiving, attending church, things of that nature. From St. Anatoly, live in a godly manner. Be meek and merciful toward the sisters, remembering God as much as you can, and you will be saved. Again, it is helpful for us to always remember how blessed Theodora reasoned when she was ill-treated, saying to herself, quote, "You are unworthy of the love of your neighbors." I was listening to a discussion that Jonathan Peugeot was having with a group of, it looked like students, just a little bit ago, and this topic came up of when addressing someone or addressing situations, look at yourself as the biggest sinner, right? It's the idea of don't look at the speck in your brother's eyes when you have a log in your eye. And somebody asked the question of, isn't that psychologically traumatic? Right? Isn't that something that could cause despair or guilt? And I think on the face of it, that's what it seems. But structurally, again, fundamentally, if it's done in this spirit, it's actually the opposite, right? Because it short circuits the projection of this other person is the bad person, right? Short circuiting that by putting it on yourself, right, is something that leads to this process of again, rectification. But I think there's definitely nuance there that's necessary. And two more here from St. Ambrose. We should and must take special care of our self-indulgence. We should and must take care that our self-indulgence does not hinder the salvation of our neighbor, his spiritual peace and spiritual progress. For this we will give a full account to God if we are not careful. It is the Christian duty to help in the salvation of our neighbor, not impede it. And finally, one must strive to have a good opinion of everyone. Only God is the knower of hearts. We cannot infallibly judge people. Ultimately, though, we do judge everything, right? I think there's a distinction to be made between judging if someone's a good person or not, with regards to judging if that chair is good for me to sit in. And I think there's some more nuance there that could be parsed out. But that is it for this kind of first video. And thank you for supporting me. And I love feedback and feel free to help, guide and move forward as we experiment here. So thank you, and we'll talk soon. God bless.